What's happening, everyone? Tyler Pyburn here with Phil DiMartino from Five Tool Productions. Today, we're talking about events and we're talking about event content. Phil, how are you today?
I'm great. I've never been better in my entire life. This is the best I've ever been in my entire life.
I don't even want to talk about event content. I just want to talk about you.
Well, I don't want to do that. So let's talk about events.
Okay, let's talk about events. So one of the things we do a lot of is focus on event content.
Yep.
So creation for companies that are throwing an event or trade shows, something large, something small. But one of the things that I think we've noticed over the years of kind of doing this is that a lot of people don't necessarily know where to start and what they should be doing from a content perspective.
Yeah, I think the really important thing about events is that whether you're doing a big or a small event, you're already investing a lot into it. You're investing a lot of time, you're investing a lot of money, and it's really, really silly to not go that extra, not even extra mile, that extra quarter mile and get the event to live on in perpetuity by getting some video content out of it. And that's only one part of it, right? That's the part that people are going to think about. And I think there's a lot more to it beyond just recording your event, right?
Well, you just said something right there. You said live on. And I think that's the important thing to keep in mind when you're creating or posting or, creating or pushing out some sort of event or trade show for that matter. Your event typically lives 1, 2, maybe 3 days at max. I mean, some of the big trade shows might go for a full week, but even those, that doesn't really happen anymore. It's usually maybe a Monday to Wednesday, Thursday at most. That's 1, 2 days, really more often than not. So the question is, how do you make your event live on and longer than just those 2 days? Because so much happens on location, whether it's speakers, whether it's booths, whether it's different little talks, side conversations that happen. How do you capture that and make it live on longer than just those 2 days?
Right, and I think the interesting thing is when you talk about all the things that happen at events, as someone who's gone to a lot of events, that even for the people who are there, there's no possible way that they can kind of do everything there is to do at your event. They can't talk to every exhibitor, and maybe they don't want to also, right? A lot of times when you're in an event, you're there for a specific reason, and there might be an exhibitor that you can connect with really well, but you just don't have the time or the energy or feel like doing it. But that doesn't mean you're not interested in what they have to say. Or another attendee, right? You don't have time to talk to every single one. So there's a lot of ways that you can use video to bring the parts of the event that people couldn't get to or didn't have time to get to or whatever it is, and bring that to them and connect them with that once they're back home after the event and they're back at their desk and they have a chance to breathe and have a little more time to do it.
So we're talking about kind of 3 things when it comes to events. Before, leading up to the event, how do I get people more engaged, more excited? Some of the sponsors, get them a little plugs before people actually get there. We're talking about during the event itself, what can you be creating? What can you be live streaming for that matter to try to pump out your content, and after the event as well. So once that event ends, how can you keep your audience engaged? Or for that matter, the people that weren't able to attend, how do you get them excited to maybe come back the next year? So let's start with before the event. What are some of the things that you can do leading up to your event? So say your event's in August, you start planning in January for that event. What are some of the things leading up to it that you would think you can start doing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, right? And it's everything from straight event promotion content, talking about come to our event. But more importantly, in a lot of ways, you mentioned sponsors and interesting people at your event and things like that. I think one of the most kind of important and interesting things you can do leading up to an event is create content with people who are going to be there and who are related to your event that actually has value to people beyond just come to our event. So you're putting
There's only so many times you can hear, come to our event. Oh, we have the big expo. That's great.
Great. People kind of get, that's important too, obviously. And you should kind of show visually and why that matters. But more importantly, just like anything else with content marketing, you want to create content that shows that you're going to have expertise at this event. And you want to do that just by delivering value leading up to it. So you have these people who are going to be there. Let's say it's an event about
fishing.
It's
Use
an event
fishing.
about fishing. Great.
Just some random
We always
thing.
come up with some random thing.
I have to. Well, we just drove past Bass Pro Shops, so it's just like fishing's on my mind right now.
No, okay. So let's say it's about fishing, and one of your exhibitors is going to be there talking about different types of bait. You create a video with them talking about the best bait using the best bait to use to catch different types of fish, and he goes on and gives you a little 3-minute video. And the people who are coming to the show might be interested in actually hearing about that. And you co-brand it with your show and your company, and then people associate that with the show and say, oh, that was a really valuable thing I just watched. Maybe it would be valuable for me to go to the show and get more.
Here's the thing. It's valuable for them to go out, but it's also valuable for the sponsors for them to be able to push out. So they become distributors for you. You know, we always talk about having the content factory, but you need to have the trucks to drive that content places. They become your trucks for you, in other words. So think of that. I'm not a fisherman. I have no idea anything when it comes to rod and reels and things like that. But say the guy that creates fishing lures, and he has that conversation about the different types of lures for the different type of fish, whether it's fresh, whether it's saltwater. So use that example. You create the video with him. He then says, instead of just saying, hey, here's that promo, I'm going to be at that conference, at that trade show, at booth 619. He then says, hey, look at this interview I just did.
He shares
excited. It with his
he's
audience
actually excited
as well.
to get it out.
So that's how you kind of get that to start to snowball in a sense.
And on top of that too, if you do have sponsors for your event, which I mean, most of the events do, if not all of them do, it's a nice value add, either to give them an additional add-on to say, if you want to purchase this, you can, or just to kind of do it as a nice thing and say, we're really appreciative that you're a sponsor. We want to feature you as one of our, our featured sponsors of this event, and here's a way that we can show you off a little bit more and give you a little bit of an extra mile. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and again, if going back to if the event is in June or summertime and you're starting in January.
Right.
Like we said in the very beginning, you really can't say have a promo for 8 months. People are going to tune it out.
Right.
But if you have different pieces of advice, different pieces of expertise, you start coming little biteable chunks, people are then going to continue to stay engaged.
Right.
So let's move on to during the event itself. What are some of the things you can create during the event? So what I think is interesting about during is that a lot of stuff you create during is going to be used for post-event.
Of course.
But there is a way to get your message out during the event and keep people engaged as well.
I think that live streaming some or all of your event in terms of your speakers and your keynote sessions and things like that is a criminally underused tactic.
No question.
There are hundreds of events in every city every single day, and just because I live in Boston and your event's in San Francisco, it doesn't mean that I don't want to see what's going on, and it doesn't mean I'm not willing to pay to see what's going on.
Mine just can't make it.
Right.
I mean, how many times are there events that just don't coincide with your schedule? Just can't physically make it because either you're on vacation or something else, another work priority comes into play. Just can't travel somewhere. Can't even go up the street. We are just outside Boston right now, and how many events take place in the city that I can't physically get to because we're on a shoot. We're doing something else at that point in time. So that happens, but I am able to jump on my phone. I am able to jump on my laptop while I'm at work and say I'm going to stream this while I'm in the middle of a meeting or have the headphones on. I mean, those types of things, you do have that ability. And the question I have, we've heard from some people that we talk to, the pushback comes when they say, well, doesn't that mean that more people aren't going to come to my event? They're going to stay home and actually watch it? I think a lot of people know now the value is in being there. Obviously, there's definitely going to be value in listening, but still, I think it's just another offering for you.
Yeah, I think it's a strategic decision to make in terms of how you offer it. But no, I don't think it's something that's going to prevent people from coming to an event. There's something extra and special about physically being at an event. You can't network with people when you're watching on a live stream. So it's a fraction of what you actually get from being there. And I think people recognize that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't offer it just because you're afraid.
And you don't necessarily have to do every single keynote speech.
That's the other part of it.
You're spending $20,000 on a speaker. You don't necessarily want to say, all right, well, I'm going to just stream him or her, for that matter, and stream the entire day. You might say, well, guess what? I'm going to stream just the interviews that we record afterwards. When those speakers get off stage and they start talking, those are what we're going to stream. So those are some of the things you can stream. So let's move on to afterwards. So we talked about the things that you gather. So going back to the speakers, guess what? If I record those speakers, I can go ahead and save those for afterwards and say, hey, maybe you missed this as well.
Right, and I think that there's an aspect of content creation and video that sometimes the hardest part is just getting the people in the room, finding the time to sit down and shoot this content with people when they're in a frame of mind to be talking about these things. They're at an event, they're a captive audience, you only need 15 minutes, pull them aside and set it up, and you can really knock out a lot of great content that's going to kind of feed your social engine and your email marketing and everything else for months and months and months if you kind of plan it out correctly. And it's one of those times where you have all these people in a room, and if you're not recording interview content with them, and you're not recording their sessions, and you're not recording these things so that you can use them later in a variety of ways, you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot, because when else in the year are you going to have all these people in one place where you can quickly and easily get them and say, 10 minutes is all I need. You're here for 8 hours, give me 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's real simple, and it goes back to using it afterwards. You can chop it up and have it be very small, biteable chunks that you don't have to be giving away the farm for anybody. And this is one thing I forgot to mention in kind of the last piece of that is you can offer this as part of a ticket. In other words, say, okay, to all the attendees, if you want to pay an extra $100, $50, $300, whatever you want to charge, you can then have access to the digital ticket as well, which has anything you may have missed, because how many times, again, do you go to a conference and they have 3 different tracks at 3 separate rooms? There's a lot of times they butt heads, I can only go to one room. What happened in the other 2? So if you can record those, if you can get interviews from those people as well, it's helpful.
And you think about delivering value. If you work for a company and they pay to send you out to a conference, I know for me when that's happened, part of what you have to do is you kind of have to give a debrief and show the value of it and write up notes. If you can go back to your company and give them, here's a video that we can watch, in a boardroom together as a company, we can watch this session. That's extra value, and that makes people maybe more likely to say, we're going to send people to this conference next year because they're actually making it worth our money to do so. So there's a lot of elements to this. It can increase the value of your event, but also it can just drive your marketing engine for the whole year if you kind of plan it out correctly.
Definitely. So if you're wondering, if you want to get some more information on it, we actually put together an event content checklist on all this. What types of content, just some ideas, more of a brain dump for you guys. If you're interested, log on to 5toolproductions.com/event content checklist. It's right here. We're putting it right here right now. So log on to that, click the link, and you can go ahead and download that. You can use it however you'd like. Print it out. A lot of great information.
Check off the boxes.
Exactly.
Literally
print it out and check it off as you go. Do I have this? Don't I have this? Do I not want this? You can do it. So he is Phil. I am Tyler. See you guys next time.